Here we go. I think this is it. We're live. Oh my gosh, what live are we now? I think we're live 27. But while I confirm that that is up and running and the page is live, which takes 2 seconds, we are live number 27. So welcome everybody. We have Chris and Richard. We'll start actually because it's the other way around. It's Richard and Chris for Leicester, right? These are from Winning Ways Education. And I have got the pleasure to see these two guys at an Alan Howard conference for select accounts. And I was invited because I'm an artist for Matrix, not necessarily because of my business. But I've explained that to these guys, and I cannot wait for you all to meet them. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to these two.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, Chris.
Okay. So we'll just sit here looking at each other for the next 30 minutes, and then let's say that was well done. So, Simon, we was having a conversation before we started, wasn't we? And we was mainly finding out a few questions from yourself. And where we was in the conversation was that you don't actually like business that much.
No, I don't. Definitely don't.
And you said in the conversation that you don't like it because you didn't see yourself being able to make money like you do other things.
I don't like it because I don't. Well, I currently don't make the money that I would make doing other things, or I do other things. Sorry, doing other things.
How much money do you want to make?
Well, £1 million.
Well, let's say turnover rather than what you make. And
yeah.
I was talking to you earlier again on a similar topic, that we were saying that in America, only 5% of businesses do a turnover of $1 million. That's all businesses. That's not just hairdressers. That's all businesses. Only 5% of businesses do a turnover of $1 million or more. In the UK, it's less than 1% of all businesses. Now, for me, I think that I find that very difficult to get my head around the numbers on that one. And so what it's saying to me is that it's quite obvious that everybody, 99% of the people in this country, have got the same issue. They don't like business. It's the only reason I can imagine why people don't do bigger numbers. See, Richard's salon and my salon have done £1 million turnover for years. And I had 13 maternities in 3 years in the last 4 years. So you can see that even one salon with 13 maternities, all stylists, and now we're getting back to doing £1 million turnover again. So it's the business side of it that makes you money. It's not the hairdressing. And it doesn't matter if you're an electrician or a plumber or whatever it is, they all are similar in the way that they think. Their mindset is concentrate on what I want to do, but without the business knowledge, which is what me and Richard do, is the business will only become what we call average.
Well, it's economies of scale, Chris, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to, because it's easy to talk about money and, throwing around £1 million is always a good benchmark figure. But it's, sometimes it's so beyond what people think that it's unrealistic, really. But it's, I always think if you can get a salon to turn over 100 grand or 200 grand, then what stops you from taking it to £1 million or even, let's say, $500,000, to be fair? We move, and that's just about growth. And I always think salons are just, we've talked about this loads, haven't we? I mean, salons are just a series of columns. So, you can have a salon with 2 or 3 people in it, and that business will generate X amount of money because there's 4 people in it, or 3 people, or 5 people. How do you scale it up? And that's really ultimately, I always think the skill sets to get you to, 5 or 6 stylists is the same skill set that gets you to 15. It's a mindset and a belief that gets you beyond that. Yeah, obviously you need to know the numbers more and skill sets around, putting systems into place. But I think it's a psychology thing. I remember hearing someone years ago that said to me that success is 80% psychology, only 20% mechanics. So you can teach people the mechanics of it. That's fine, and then the rest of it is just belief as to how do you do that. But I've always felt that the problem, well, we'll do with salons rather than all businesses, is that sometimes you get a little bit of success. So, you get to a certain scale and your lifestyle starts to improve slightly, you get a better car, nicer holidays. And it's always the fear of losing that stops people from going again and sort of taking another risk and moving again and doing those sorts of things. So they get a little bit comfortable. And I think it's the fear of losing what I've already gained rather than, or they run into problems with staff and then that knocks their confidence or, their whole thing around people. Because you need people, don't we? And that's our challenge. It's growing people.
A couple of questions come in there, actually. Jessica Celeste, who is, I'm sure she's near your way, she's a Birmingham sort of area girl. She said, what is your opinion on self-employed salons? Do you think they're the way forward? And I know the answer to this because I've heard you say this before.
We don't get into a kind of moral thing with this. I think what we've discovered over the last few weeks is that self-employment is risky. And in lots of ways, the industry's moved that way. One is because employing people has become expensive. So all the costs associated with employing people, with pensions, employers' national insurance, holiday pay, all those sorts of things. It means that people think, well, I'll go down the self-employment route, and then it gets rid of a multitude of costs and problems. Then ultimately, you just create it's hard to grow a self-employed salon. And I've listened to people talk about that you can grow it, but it's ultimately those people then work for themselves and not part of the team. And I know there are salons out there that kind of would argue that point that they are, but ultimately it's economy that I think when it comes down to salons, no one would want to work for themselves if they can earn as much money being employed by somebody else. So I think if you can pay somebody, so if you've got a self-employed stylist, so let's say a self-employed stylist comes to me and says, well, I'm thinking about, I want to earn X amount of money. Can I earn that money here being employed? Well, if you could pay them that same amount of money and look after them, give them holiday pay, give them training, have a receptionist that answers the phone for them, have trainees that work alongside them, I think they'd take that option any day of the week. I think the reason a lot of people go self-employed, I know there's sometimes it's flexibility, but for most it's economics. It's so I can get a bigger slice of the pie because the pie's a little bit too small. What's your thoughts, Chris?
I think exactly. You have to come back down to the reason. The question is, why did they want to go self-employed? And it was because for most people, they hadn't got, whoever they were working for, they hadn't got enough business knowledge. It keeps coming back to the same thing, unfortunately. So they wasn't getting the right wage. They wasn't charging the right price. They wasn't doing all the things that the business knowledge gives you to be able to earn a good wage. I mean, you've still got hairdressers today that go home and start working again to make up their money. I mean, you've still got hairdressers who work full-time who don't get lunch. I mean, it's crackers. I mean, that's not the sort of business that you should be looking at for the future. If we're looking at future, which is a great question from that person, is self-employed the way forward? Definitely not, because I think people need leadership. You can't have a splintered organisation like hairdressing is at the moment. We need to move forward as a group, as people. There needs to be a minimum price. There needs to be, although we've got minimum wage, there needs to be ultimately, which is what me and Richard has been working on with salons, salon owners are not earning enough money. The stylists are not earning enough money. And these things need to be addressed, and they can only be addressed if they have access to business education. Now, you'd think, well, you would say that because that's what you do. But 99% of the people who work for self-employed and work for a business are not achieving that much. I love it from the point of fact that Richard and myself, the only reason that I can stand and say what we say is because we have salons ourselves. If we didn't have salons ourselves, then it would be very difficult to be able to say this is achievable. But once you've got a salon yourself and it's been achieved today, or when we get back, then you only got to have a couple of people being able to do it. It means that it's available to everybody. I mean, that's how it works. And so it's just a matter of people like me and Richard getting our voice louder and to get our information over to people better, because I think it's almost instant with most businesses that we come in contact with. They have so little to that they've got great businesses. They just need that little bit of push, don't they, in the right direction, Richard, would you say?
I think also one of the biggest misconceptions really is that, when it comes to self-employment, because it's a big thing that's been going around for years, is how it's set up. So the assumption is that if you're self-employed, you're going to get more money and you're going to earn a lot more money. And actually what happens is the employee very often looks at net pay, for example, and says, well, if I work for myself, I'd get more of the money, I'd get as large a slice of the pie. And as I said, our goal our job as salon owners is to make sure the pie is big enough because of the prices we charge and how they're structured to be successful. Without getting into the real details around percentages here, but an average employed stylist now, that's about 43% of their takings anyway, because of obviously all the things that they're paid as well, because obviously holiday pay and those type of. So, someone will sometimes leave a salon and go to another salon for a 50-50 split potentially. Let's give that for simplicity. And then in reality, if they say to work for someone, it's 43%. The problem is the salon owner doesn't really understand the wages, because they usually, that's done by sometimes an accountant or a bookkeeper. And so the employee thinks, well, I'm getting nothing here, because the stylist, the owner hasn't explained that, well, actually, I'm paying employers national insurance, you're getting a pension, you get holiday pay, and actually what you're getting here is 43% of what you take. And on top of that, we're getting training, we've got this, we've got that. So we're not really selling our what we have to our employees. And so it seems there's a little bit of, well, you're getting all the money and I'm getting nothing. That's the perception of the industry, that all the money's been taken by the owner. But if you speak to most owners, that's not the reality. And so it's down to educating our team members to say, well, actually, it's telling them what they're earning and what they're really earning. And then once they understand that, they'll want to go off. And I've never lost anyone to self-employment. And I think because we spend a lot of time going through this with the team, they can grow, they can get promotions within the salon, they can go from one level to the next level. They can grow within the salon. So it has its own sort of living organism, really. So, I'm not earning any money, I'm going to go and work for someone down the road. Oh, good luck with that. Because, when I've spoken to any self-employment salon, where it's someone who's completely self-employed, or there's a split between self-employed and employed, and you ask them how to go, oh yeah, it's great. And then you get them on their own and you ask, well, what's really happening? What's going on? And 100% of the time, it's not quite what it seems. They'll say, well, there's this, and we have had one or two issues between the employed and the self-employed. And yeah, I'm coming to pay the VAT and they don't pay any VAT. And then, it gets to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they've got no one in. They go home. I mean, I don't know how you organise and run what I would call a high-end salon when the staff are disappearing left, right, and centre, or coming and going as they please. I think it's very, very difficult to do that. That's why I just don't think I don't think it's the future. And just to add a second point on that, the Chancellor said when he introduced the thing around him helping self-employed people, he said after this is over, we will be looking at balancing out what the tax and national insurance that's paid by the employed and also the self-employed, because most self-employed people don't pay hardly any national insurance and very little tax. And he's sort of saying, yeah, we'll help you, but there's going to be a kind of reckoning at the end of this. So I think when all is said and done, they'll go back in and either lower VAT thresholds, or they'll have to make some NI contributions. There'll be some correction in the market, and it won't be quite as attractive financially moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Right, cool. Well, on that point, I just want to bring in Donna Garnham, who said she did a course with you guys, went back, put her prices up, changed how we pay to this, and then we now have a very happy, well-paid team.
Could you just say that again, please?
Yeah. So, I read like a 5-year-old, and it goes on 3 different lines. But yeah, basically, she went on a course for you guys. She's now gone back, and the team are buzzing. So there you go. That's a summary of that message.
And we hear that all the time because a lot of people have got great businesses ready to move forward. It's not as if they're bad businesses. They're not. They've just brought it as far as they can, being an artist, running a business, running a salon. They've got it going as much as they can. But then when you say to them, imagine that you doubled your workforce. So if you've got 5 people or 10 people working for you, imagine that you've got 10 or 20 people and they go, oh, no, that would be twice as many headaches. That's what business does. It takes away the headaches. It solves all those problems. It doesn't growing a business does not mean you've got as many problems. It does not. In fact, it's better to have a bigger salon than it is to have a smaller one. It's much easier, but you've got to know how to run it, and you've got to bring in systems that you learn.
Because sorry, Chris, when I first started, I mean, I always tell the story. I'm not going to tell it now because it goes on too long. But when I first started business education, I was working 60 hours a week behind the salon chair. I had 3 young children. I did the wages every Friday night when I finished work at 9:30. I mean, I just sat there after probably about 6 or 7 years and thought, I can't continue with this. I'm working, we're busy, I'm doing clients, and I just felt like I was pedaling a bike like a maniac, but the chain was off. I wasn't getting any traction. There was no. And then I look at other people, and in those days, probably in a very negative way or kind of slightly jealous way, and thought, well, why are they doing it? And all these sorts of things. And actually, then it's where I kind of got out of the salon, went and did some education, learned some of the systems, started to introduce it, which isn't easy to start off with. Yeah. As Chris said, a few years down the line, these things they don't happen overnight. You can't go back and change the world in 24 hours. But, slowly and, learning it, then you look back after 5 or 10 years and you think, actually, we're in a whole different place and a different, in a different sort of emotion, and the business changed. And actually, weirdly, it's much easier to run a bigger salon with more people from an emotional point of view than run a small one with a small group of people. And that's because you're integrally linked to them when they're a small team. You're having to work alongside them all day, so you're less likely to hold someone to account for something because you think, well, I'm not going to tell her off for being late because she's just going to be in a sulk all day long, and I'll just leave it. And then she comes in late the next day, and you're like, oh, I should have. And then what happens is, it happens for a week, and then you blow up one day, and then it's all, do you know what I mean? It's because we haven't got the time, we haven't got the mindset, and I just think it's a much easier way to start to grow salons because it puts you in a better position.
It's very interesting, though, but I remember back when we used to do courses, and still recently as well, where you get a room full of hairdressers. And at first, they're all sitting there thinking that the other salon owners in the room are like competition. And they hardly look at each other and they sort of don't acknowledge each other till a little bit later on in the day. But if you get a group of salon owners, which we regularly do, and then they have another meeting not long afterwards, and then another meeting sort of a few months later, they're the best friends in the world. And once they start talking, you can't shut them up, actually, because it's a problem, because they've got so much in common. And they find out that being a salon owner is a very lonely place. You're trying to do your wages after everybody's gone, or you're trying to work out all the problems. You need connection with other salon owners as well. It's very important that you've got connection so that you don't feel that you're on your own. And that's one of the best things about getting groups of salon owners together, because they work a lot of the problems out themselves, and you just it sort of reconfirms their beliefs of their decision making anyway. But it is a big plus, people together.
I just want to touch on that because I don't think we've actually clarified, because obviously I know we've skipped a bit, but you two own 2 different salons that both turn over $1 million. So that I just want to clarify that for the people that have either just joined in or didn't understand that at the beginning. And right. That goes into the point what you just said there, doesn't it? That you're 2 different salon owners that both are very successful within a short mileage. What is it?
Well, we're only 20 minutes away from each other. And it just shows you that the competition, and I was always told this right from early age when I got educated, and who's your competition? And they used to say, well, I've got competition in my area. There's so many hairdressing salons. and I've got 16 other hairdressing salons around my salon and on the high street, but I don't see them as competition. The competition is in the mind of the client when they decide where they're going to spend their money. And it's that you have to work on, that decides, am I going to go to the shoe shop and buy those shoes? Am I going to go to the restaurant and have that meal? Or do I want to go to Chapters, which is my salon? No, I like going there. And that's the competition. Once you start to get people to change their mind and choose you before something else, that's when you start to get successful. And we was talking earlier on about talking about brands as well, wasn't we, Simon? How you create a brand. Well, first of all, you have to decide what it is about your business. What do you want your business to say? And in my business, I was educated on, we design an haircut and then we want to educate the clients on how to look after it every day of the year. Not just looking good that when they go out of the salon, but they need to be able to do it after they've had a shower. Once they've come out of the shower the next day, they have to be able to reproduce what we've just done. And if you don't do that, then after a bit, they're going to decide that this is not value for money. And that's how I created our salon and our brand. The brand sort of builds itself around your values and your ideas of what your business is. And I think that if we spoke about, let's say, for instance, and I don't know that much about you, Simon, but if we spoke about why do your clients choose you, and you would probably think, well, because I'm good at what I do. But if you ask the clients, they expect you to be good at hairdressing. But they choose you because of other reasons. So we tend to think that people come to us because we're either very good at what we do, and we always say, oh, we're very friendly. That's high up the list. Everybody's very friendly. But that isn't why people come to my salon. They come to my salon because, and we get our young assistants, anybody new come in. So say if we've got 7 assistants, and we send them out every probably 6 months, and they go all around the town, and they'll go up to people, and they have to go up to a certain number of people of a certain age, and they go up to them and they say, excuse me, I'm new to the area. Could you recommend a good hairdressing salon? And we write down all the names of the salons, what they've told us, what they recommended. And then they all come back, all 7 of them, and we get this list of all the names of the salons, and we write them down to see where we are on the league table. Now, that's when you start to understand in the minds of clients out there, are you the best in the area? Because that's the best way to go out and find out if you're the best in the area. It's not in your own mind. That don't make sense. But if you go out and ask clients, and if you're first, have a look at who's second. And if you're third, then you know you're fighting after. You want to get the best in the area, be the best salon in the area. And once you're focused on that, then you can start to build a bit. You get excited about building a business, and then you want to know about business, because once you know about business, you know more than them. And now you can start to take their clients away from them. And then you do it again, and you can see that how you're going up the list and how many people have recommended you. And it's fun. I enjoy that side of it. Not just cutting hair and colouring hair and all the other things.
When it comes to business, I think one of the things is that when people talk about business, they're really talking about the figures. I mean, it's just the numbers, isn't it? And that's what people go, well, I don't like business. And it's usually the numbers. You know, it's understanding all of that. The rest of it, they're very good at generally. You know, they're creative and they come up with new ideas. They're very, in terms of, being imaginative around how to, grow things and grow people. That's, I think if you can take the financial pressures off people and understand the numbers, so it's a done deal, learn that, moved on, then that's the easy part. It's understanding that. You don't have to, as Chris always says, you haven't got to learn to run Tesco. You just need to know which figures to look at. I mean, but there are only a few. there's only a few things you need to work on, and I think most of the time with my job is how do I take the numbers and turn it into a task. So I can get a print off and I can work out some numbers, maybe 5 or 6 reports that will give me exactly what I need, and then it leads me to go down to the team and do some work with them. It could be on their client journey, it could be on their skills, it could be on their knowledge, and so it leads to a kind of one-on-one situation with your team where you're growing them. Because ultimately, if you've started a salon, I would say 99% of the time, it's because you're a good hairdresser, you knew how to get busy, you knew how to keep clients, you had those core skills. But so often in the industry, those people with that skill set are so busy doing hair, they never get a chance to stop and share their knowledge with the young people coming through. It's part of the reason why self-employment's a bit of a challenge, really, because if you're in a self-employed salon, who pays for the training? Who pays for the trainees? And it's a whole generation that are coming through who don't get to learn what we know because there's no time to do it. And I think that's where the shame is, where you need to take those people, like to include myself in that, who get to spend time with our young people and our young stylists and share our knowledge to pass that skill on.
What was you going to say then, Simon? You looked as if you was going to say something earlier then.
I wasn't saying anything. I was just thinking that you're just talking about me. This is just me. I'm holding my hands up. I don't have that time to pass on to anybody. I am probably your worst nightmare. I'm the guy that you look at and think, this guy's doing everything wrong. Let's rebuild it. That's the way you look at me, I'd say.
You're a doer, Simon. You're a doer. And one of the things that you need to be when you're a salon owner is a doer. And you can start to make things happen. And a lot of salon owners are doers. They just need to be in the right direction. One of the biggest problems I've always understood is, let me tell you a little bit about my salon to start with, is that I'm a men's hairdresser and I'm not a ladies hairdresser, but my salon is ladies only. We don't do men. So I sort of made myself redundant, I think. But it makes it so much easier to run a salon when I'm not so connected on the salon floor with my clients. I've got to say that is one of the hardest things, because when I was on the salon floor working with clients, if we was going to put the prices up, it made your decision making so much more harder to do the right thing, because you were going to go up to the till and charge those people. Well, when you're up and you're in the office and you're making decisions from a business side of it, you can see what needs to be done. And so then when you implement it, it's far easier. I tell you that you're out of the way when it's actually done. But
hiding behind the door.
I've actually had to say to me and my staff is we don't take our own bills, because the amount of times I get there and go, just call it this, mate. Just call it 20.
Right. Yeah.
I do it all the time.
I always say I need rules to protect me from me. I am my own worst enemy, and so I need to have systems and standards to protect me from me. And that's why having a receptionist makes it much easier. And again, it goes back to, if you're setting and structuring a salon up, can we do that if they're designed a certain way, if they're built around, well, it's not my client, so someone else will go and see her. I always think, great businesses, it doesn't matter what business it is. You walk into any great hotel or a restaurant or anything like that, and you want to see that everyone's got a job to do. Everyone's responsible for each other. I don't see that. I just think in some salons, if it's self-employed, where you just don't get that same thing. I know some salons do it, but to the letter of the law, to the letter of what self-employment is, they shouldn't have any of that they're wearing. But I just think it's like, well, it's not my client. And I just think when you've got a team working together, people like working together, but people like being in on things. They want to be part of the success. And it's our job as salon owners to create the culture and the environment where they feel part of something, somewhere they feel proud of working. And I think it's all got a little bit, well, and I think society to a certain degree is all a bit me. What am I getting? What you got for me? And that's not how the world works. And we're getting a little bit hopefully back with let's work together. Let's do something for the salon rather than just for myself. And I think that's where the industry will go, hopefully, moving forward back into those type of things, and not a me world, and a bit more us world.
So before we get into, there's so many comments coming through, mainly compliments, but there are a couple of questions in there. But before I get into all that, I just want to start with a couple of core questions, right? So I'm a business owner. I have my head above the water, that's what we'll call it. And
Yep.
I have a staff member that brings in £1,000 a week.
Yep.
Just on argument's sake. And then what is the point? So if she's on a wage of £500 a week, what should she be earning to make that value of £500 a week? Or make, you know what I mean, what's the word?
What does she need to...
Yeah, what does she need to take for the salon to earn £500 a week?
To make her worth £500 a week? Because obviously £1,000 sounds like, oh yeah, well I'm doubling my money. But what is the actual figure that you should? Is there a rule of thumb or anything like that?
Yeah, there's lots of. Yeah, there is really. I mean, on £500, really, she should be doing at least three times that. Because if she's been employed, then she's not getting. This is the thing. We look at it. She's getting £500 a week. But if she's an employed stylist, then she isn't, because she's going to get employer's national insurance on top of that, pension contributions on top of that, and holiday pay. These are things that we have to account for. So, in theory, that £500 is probably more like £6. And so that's why understanding having a wage percentage and having control over it is so important, because then it gives them a sort of starting point because at the end of the day, even if she's earning £500 a week, the goal is, how do I get it to £600, £700, £800 a week? Does this make sense?
I would say there's a connection here between wages and pricing. You will not be able to get a £500 wage if your price is not right. To be honest, they shouldn't be looking at doing £1,000 a week. You should be looking to be able to do a turnover of £2,000 a week, because that isn't that hard to do. But you've got to have the support of the business to be able to allow the stylist to be able to take the £2,000 a week. If you're only charging 30, average bill 30, 35, 40, you're going to struggle. You see, we've got to get those prices up. But to be able to get them prices up, you've got to give value for money. And I would say that if you're doing £1 million turnover like my salon, you would think and imagine that the hairdressing must be really, really good. And it's not. I bet you, Simon, there's nobody in my salon who's got the skills that anywhere close to what you've got. And I can imagine that some of these salon owners who are listening to this as well, they have got fantastic skills. And I'm not saying that my salon's bad. What I'm saying is we're not world class, nowhere near. We're very good, but we're not world class. And we do £1 million turnover. And it shows you that it's not all about the one thing that we all focus on, the hairdressing, the artistry, all that type of thing. That on its own is not going to make you money. It has to have the backup of the business, which means the pricing has to be correct for each individual stylist. There's still salons out there that charge one price because they don't like to have structured pricing. There is, and again, I keep seeing you smile, Simon. You've got to have a career sort of base for people to be able to work up. Because I've got salon owners and stylists in my salon, and if my whole goal, when not long after I started, was to be able to have the girls in my salon. I tend to employ a lot of girls. We don't have any guys for no reason at all, but we just have a lot of girls. But I wanted my girls to be able to afford to buy a home, have a mortgage that they could afford on their own without a partner. That was the goal of the salon, and we achieved that some years ago. Our goal now is for a stylist to earn £1,000 a week, and we're not there yet, and we've got a couple of £100 to go yet, maybe a bit more, but we're not that far away. And so when we talk about self-employed and in the future, then I don't think self-employed people, they'll do a turnover, But by the time they've worked everything out, you've got to have leadership to be able to earn £1,000 a week as a stylist in the future. You're not going to be able to do it just by doing quick stuff. They think that to earn more money, you've got to work fast. It's quite the opposite. You've got to have structured, you've got to have certain things in place which are not out of these people's reach. I mean, we've got people on 750. Richard's got people on more than mine, but £750 a week all the time. I've got stylists who do over £1,000 and a very good week retail on their own. Retail. It's but once they've learned how to do it, it's there. It is. The best week we ever had was £9,000 in retail in a week in the salon. I mean, these numbers are stupid numbers, but if somebody's achieving it, and we're not in a city, we're not even in a big town, we're just on a normal average. He says it's the worst high street in the country, but it isn't. It's just an average high street.
Put an assignment in, Chris. Okay, I'll give you that.
Right. Well, I would say that my staff have already decided on themselves they won't be taking it. Because, and I'll give you a reason why they've come to that conclusion. One of the things that we do in business, in our salons, is we educate the team on how to run a business. It is so important to the running of a business that the whole of the staff have to understand how a business works. So my team, and to a high percentage, they're probably better educated than most salon owners, to be fair. And so when it comes to this, they already answer the question. There's no way in the world that our salon is going to be able to start paying out for holidays when we've just had. It's reality is you're not going to be able to do it. And so they go, we won't be taking that.
There's a legal question here, which is what comes up. So what are they legally entitled to? So that's the first question. So do they accrue a holiday through the lockdown? Well, the answer at the moment is yes, they do. And as Chris said, the reality is that it says, okay, well, let's say on a conservative guess that we're back in on, I don't know, middle of May or end of May. They'll have had 8-9 weeks off. So to take another 6 weeks holiday, and also they haven't. You have to pay them holiday pay, and we've had no money coming in to pay holiday pay. As Chris said, you have to sit down and have a conversation with them. Okay, and then say, okay, well then they can have it over the next 2 years. Well, what's going to happen after this is over is we're going to go into a recession. I mean, that's what's happening. We're going to go into recession, and we're even talking about potential, depression. And so the marketplace is going to be challenging for a period of time. And you can't, I mean, whether the government comes out and balances this up, at the moment they're making decisions on the hop. But the reality is I can't afford to pay next year to pay 8 weeks holiday or 9 weeks holiday to a stylist on, at a time where maybe they're doing clients from, one at a time, no two people. I mean, we're going into a new world, and I think there's a reality of sort of saying, if one of my stylists came back in after the lockdown and put a holiday request in, after they got a slap, only joking, you'd have to say, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? What are you thinking of? That was very serious in the office. There'll be a serious in the office about that. Have holiday.
What I would say, though, is that if there's any stylists who are on holiday while this is happening, we do pay them full 100% rather than the 80%. We are doing that.
Yeah.
So they don't lose out.
So I'll just repeat what I said a second ago, because me being a Muppet, people know the question because I put it on screen, so don't panic. But I had myself muted, so no one heard me say that. If I say anything in any particular order, it's because I'm trying to keep it in a running order. But a girl that you will know called Katie Steeden, who's from Alan Howard, she's one of the reps that goes round.
Yes.
She says, "Hi, Chris and Richard. Working with salons closely, there has been a mixed reaction to this current pandemic. Some are fearful about what may be going around the corner, Some are excited about what it's going to be like in the grand opening after the lockdown is over. What are your contingencies that you have put in your salons, and how are you dealing with the current situation for the plans to reopen?
Well, what I would say is that I'm thinking about it at the moment, but I'm not actually making any decisions until I know when we're going back, and guidelines from the government as well. I don't want to start wasting my time and focus on something at the moment that could change completely. So I want to be very particular on where I'm spending my time at the moment. And so although it's a bit of a cop-out from the question, I'm not spending a lot of time on it. I'm thinking about it and I'm writing down plans, but I won't make decisions until later on. But I've got a good idea about what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, and I think I'd agree with that. You can't make any, I can see that people are panicking about PPE and double skin gloves and all this type of stuff. But until we're giving guidelines as to what we're supposed to do, then we can't really make a decision on that. I think the things we're going to have to be mindful of is that people are going to be scared coming back, both clients and team members, to be fair. I think we're looking at the potential of having early morning appointments for those clients who are in the vulnerable category, who've been told to self-isolate for 12 weeks or longer, to maybe offer them something of being in the morning. So I think we're having to be a little bit flexible. But in terms of a clear guideline, I don't think you can do that at the moment. I think it's until we know where we are, no one really knows what's happening at the moment. And I think to actually put plans in place now, I think the key to it is keep putting the questions to your teams, asking them with what's their thoughts, because they'll find their own answer. Actually, I mean, the key to getting a team on board with anything is for them to think it's their idea. And they're aware that I think that they have got clients that they want to look after. Obviously, we're all getting phone calls and messaging from clients who've got routes and what do you suggest and all of that. And we're having to. Well, I know some people are sending colours out, but it's having to make our own decisions. And I don't think. Like I said, you've got to think about the vulnerable, and I think you've got to think that people are going to live in a very uncertain world for a period of time. And I think we have to be mindful of that. But I wouldn't go too carried away.
What I would say, though, Simon, is that you have got every chance of upsetting a lot of clients when we're going back if you don't get this right. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to be looking at my top 100 clients, big money spenders, and I'm also going to be looking and focusing on the ones who were already booked in, because they're desperate, because they got cut off just before they wanted their haircuts and coloured. So they've been waiting. They were already desperate. Now they're...
We always focus on our top 100 clients. Our top 100 clients produce a third of our income. It's amazing how, when you look at the numbers from a business point of view, how just a small number of clients can generate a lot of income from a salon point of view. And so you have to make sure they're looked after. But I agree with Chris. We'll probably bring our reception team back in a week early from furloughing, start contacting the clients, to be fair. So the phones don't go mad on the first day, and then we get overwhelmed. Do it on a piecemeal sort of from a piecemeal I think what's going to happen is you'll have 3 weeks where it's going to be busy and it will be challenging, and we'll have to adjust and all the rest of it. And I think it's going to settle down relatively quickly, and I think utilisation will be a challenge for salons moving forward. And I think that's why if someone says to me, what do you need to think about? It's not just about when the salon reopens and what that looks like. It's you've got to look at the numbers then. I mean, if you've got deadwood in the salon, I know that sometimes it's been detrimental to team members, this is your time to don't bring them back. This is a time to streamline, and pricing needs to go up, because you're going to have clients coming back in who are their colour services. You can't charge the same. If someone comes back in and they've got roots that long, you can't charge them a normal roots retouch. And people will do that because they'll feel some empathy because they haven't been able to come in. You've got to charge accordingly for what we're doing. That's the key with the business, to be honest. It takes the emotion out. If a client comes back in, let's say a client comes back in and they've done their own home colour, well, they're going to book back in for a consultation prior to having an appointment, because you don't know what they put on. You know what I mean? So we have to get prepared, not only what the world looks like, but also what's walking back through the door in terms of what their clients. The clients have had all those weeks to mess up their own hair. So I think you're going to have a period of time where you're going to be doing a lot of repairs and fixing and all of that type of stuff. And that has to be charged properly. And if you don't charge properly for it, you're going to miss an opportunity to start putting some money back in the till, because we have had a period of time where we've had no money coming in. And most of those payments, by the way, that we haven't been paying haven't been got rid of. They've only been deferred. And so for quarter 3 and quarter 4 of this year, they're going to be challenging. You still got your tax to pay. That VAT will still be due at some point. Those bills coming from the suppliers are still going to, in the third quarter, fourth quarter, cash flow could be really badly affected if we're not on top of that. And you can't make the emotional decision of, well, we're not charging the client, we'll do that. We'll sort that colour out for you, because you were closed, and I know you didn't want to put your own colour on. You've got to just charge what you need to charge and stay strong.
There are some people, and I can imagine salon owners as well, that are thinking, well, we'll look after our regulars and all the rest of it. In fact, we might even give them a discount. That is suicide. And to be honest, it's people are starting to think like that. They won't last very long. In fact, when we go back, we've already done the price lists before this all happened, but we're having a price increase of £3 on everything across the board, because you got April the 1st, you had the minimum wage, living wage, you had pensions all go up. That's all got forgotten because we haven't been in. That all starts again. And so our prices have to keep that in mind. And now you're going to have added costs. The focus must be you've got to get profit. You've got to start getting cash flow into the business. You've got to get cash flow. You can be the busiest business, but if you run out of cash, you're dead.
It's oxygen.
The business will go. Yeah, so you've got to get this cash flow running and hold on to it. And so you've got to be very careful on how you spend the money as you're going along. And if your prices are not correct,
then we charge for the service correctly.
Well, you've already answered my next question, which is a personal question. We've got some more questions coming in, but my question was going to be to you guys that I was kind of using this time to go back on things that I wanted to do, like whether it be a salon refurb, whatever it was. And you just said there exactly what I was going to do, was go back to your meeting that I had with you in January, maybe, and basically say, right, this is my time to sort of restructure, make sure I'm pricing everything right. But so would you advise that this is the perfect time to make sure that your prices are right, and if that means an increase, that's fine?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. My fear is that people are planning on a December coming, Christmas rush, if you will. But with every December follows a January, February. And my concern is that if we don't get everybody in the time that we need to, that they will find somewhere else to go, and then the lull will happen after that.
Mm.
So I'm thinking that I need to get the prices right now, not going flat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And for some people, unfortunately, sorry, Richard, but unfortunately, a lot of salons could do with education on their price lists now. So that when they do put them up, but they're not all going to be able to do that. So I would just say your price list, what you've got now, put the prices up, but low price services, if anybody's doing dry cuts, if anybody's doing wet cuts, if anybody's doing kids under 12, under 5, under 2s and all the rest of it, and they're discounting, you have to start getting rid of these low price services. And that will take your average bill higher. You'll be absolutely blown away with the difference that makes just by doing that. And if I was going to advise anybody, that's what I would look to do. Get rid of your low price services so that when you do get some education, if you ever get lucky enough to come on one of our courses, or we get to help you with your pricing, you're at least just setting it up, because this is the way that we're going. This is where low price services, you can't afford to pay somebody to do it no more.
They're a loss-making service. That's sometimes people don't realise that. They think any sort of money in the till is money in the till, but some services actually make you lose your money. Because you're taking up space in a column where for the first 4 weeks after you open, you shouldn't be doing anything that's discounted, anything that's not full price. For the first 4 weeks, them time is going to be optimized, and it's a time, as Chris said, to go back, and it's what I would call a reset button. If you want to go back and restructure your business and have a start again moment, to think, I wish I'd done things differently, I wish I could change this, then this is your time to do it, because we've had time to think about it, and we're going into a new world, and you're not going to get a better opportunity than now to go and make those changes for your business moving forward. Because you can lose staff at the moment, and everyone will be understanding of it. Everyone will know the reasons for it. I think the staff are going to be appreciative of their jobs a bit more than they maybe have been in the past. And I think it's the perfect time to go back and get things right for the future. And I think the future will be a challenge, to be fair, for the next couple of years. But I think some salons, we've known that some salons that we've worked with previously have already been running on fumes financially for a long period of time anyway. If you're going to close your salon with 10 grand or 25 grand in the bank, and this is the time they're going to do it. There's going to be a lot of people that think, I've had 4 or 5 weeks at home and I don't really want that hassle anymore. They'd be better off being employed because they'd enjoy it more. And I think this is where I think there'll be a balance with that. People going back thinking, do you know what? I just don't want it. I want to be working in a salon, and where everything gets done for me. I'm going to make you two sick in a second, because I thought, I'm a bit bored. I got this £10,000 grant, as you said, and I thought to myself, that might be profit for me if I'm opening up in a few weeks. I wonder how much I'm actually going to cost to be shut, say 3 weeks to 6 weeks to 9 weeks. I don't know. I have no idea. So I went through it, and I actually learned what it's costing me a week, and I didn't know that prior. I thought I knew it, and now I've gone back and done it again. I was miles off. 200 to 300 quid a week off.
Do you feel better for knowing?
Yeah.
And that's what businesses does. That's what business does. It gives you that peace of mind, because even if it's wrong, even if it's not in the right place and it's a bit negative, at least you know. It's when I always remember, I did a course once and it was called Ignorance is Bliss. Yeah. And it wasn't until I found out that I got all stressed. I was all right before I was educated.
Well, it's good though. I'm glad I did it, mate, because I nearly bought myself a new MacBook. I was going on holidays and everything, and now I realise I ain't fucking going nowhere. I'm staying here. But Katie Stevens got a great question. She's come back again from Alan Hours and said that you mentioned how very successful you are with your retail, and a lot of salons, including myself, I'll be honest, I'm very honest about things like this, struggle with doing it. What are your top 3 tips for getting on the grip of retail?
It's a system. We call it 5 C's. We call it contact, consultation, cleanse, care, cheerio, 5 C's. But if you want to retail is done in the consultation. Where most people get it wrong is that wait till the end, or they wait on their journey round. It's the biggest retailers in my salon, it's already done in the consultation. So it's sold then. And then it's just confirmed all the way through the journey of the salon, where they were showing them how much to use, how to use it, all the rest of it. But in most cases, they tell them this is what you need. They don't ask them. They tell them. Now, some people would say, well, I don't like selling. It's a bit of a hard sell. Once you're educated on knowing, it's like a doctor. I've got a pain down the side, and you go, oh, well, I know what that is. Well, that's X amount. And they say, well, you're going to give me something for it. And the doctor says, well, I don't like selling. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's just, and that's how we've got to look at it. So if somebody comes in with dry hair, what you need is this. It's up to you if you take it. All I'm saying is you need that. And by the time you finish the journey, they're not only just buying that, they're buying this, that, and the other. And what you tend to forget when you're an hairdresser as well, we think it's all about their haircut and colour. It's the emotion that you're selling. And when they come in next time, they're looking forward to seeing what they're going to buy. That's when you know that you've got success. They're coming in and they're excited about, well, what we're going to try this time. And that's where these girls, they don't work hard at it. It becomes a culture of client.
is built into the consultation. Sorry, interrupting, Chris. Built into the consultation. If one great question to ask in a consultation is, if you could change one thing about your hair, what would it be? And I would say 90% of the time, it's a condition. It's too fine, it's too thick, it's too curly, it's too something else. And then the next lead on from that, I've got something that could help with that. Would you like me to show you? I mean, they identified their own problem. What you're doing is giving them a solution to the problem. And then secondly, don't use money as an incentive. 10% commission is never going to set the world alight. And so you're using retail and product as a way of improving your client journey. Because by asking that question, it moves the conversation onto the client, onto them personally about their wants, their needs, and you talking to them and getting more information from them. And it kind of stops what we're doing today, where you're going tonight. Have you seen, it avoids that kind of typical conversation and it engages the client, gives you a chance to share your knowledge and your experience. And so I think that's where product, rather than retail, product is a way of solving problems. And if you can identify the problem and you can solve that problem for a client, then you'll get a client. The best retailers always have the best, strongest client bases. I've never seen one where I've never seen someone with a strong client base who doesn't retail a little bit. You do get sometimes where you've got really great stylists, and that's just because they're great stylists, but they're very rare. Most of the time, it's because it's part of their journey. It's built into what they do for a client. And the first question is, you changed one thing about your hair. Tell me a little bit about your hair's been. It improves the consultation. It makes the engagement with the client better, keeps you better connected. But 10% commission, do it on that.
Well, I'm conscious of your time because honestly, I could have you all night. But I'll just go for another quick couple of questions and then we can take it from there. But one of them is John Anthony from Blackpool. He's one of the Matrix artists that I've worked with actually, and he said that he's got someone who's self-employed who constantly hits the £1,000 mark. He wants to become employed, but he doesn't know where to start with rate and commission. Where would you start?
Sorry, could you give me the question again, please? So
the self-employed person brings in £1,000 a week consistently.
Yeah.
And now he wants to go employed.
Yeah.
Where would you start with his wage or commission, etc.?
I think I would start from the point of view of what's the current structure. So is it just a split at the moment? How does it currently work? In other words, you've always got to work back from what their current net pay is, because you've got to maintain. If you say to somebody, right, I'm going to change you from one thing to another, and the deal they've got is a fantastic deal, and you make them employed, and although they've got the tax and all the rest of it, and they're more looked after, but their net pay ends up being a massive reduction in what they're earning. It's a hard sell, isn't it? So you might have to do something over a period of time, in line with increasing their prices, in line with balancing it out. It's more of a plan without giving them a. So sometimes think if you've got A or B, and that's it. You've got this or this, and actually what you're doing is working towards getting them onto your system. But it might take a period of time of. When I first started my business education, it's the best way to tell the story. I had 9 stylists on 9 different wage structures, and those wage structures were, I don't know how I set it up. I had no idea. I'd just taken what I'd learned from previous employers had all gone out of business, and when I first started my business education, it took me 2 years to fix that. I never did anything else with that business education in that 2-year period, apart from every week work on these wages. And how I did it was by increasing the prices and reducing their commission. Does that make sense? That was the way I did it. It took me 2 years to do that. So they didn't lose any money. And what I said to them at the beginning was, you're getting paid too much, which they kind of knew, to be honest. And I need to get the salon back into some balance. I'm doing this course. And so I promise you that you won't lose any money for the next couple of years. But in the meantime, as the prices increases, I'm going to have to reduce the commissions. That's what we did. So it's not a straightforward answer from A to B, but you have to have a plan, and it'll come down to what they're ultimately earning, because he'll have a lifestyle around what he's currently earning. And so he needs to get the £1,000 way above £1,000. As Chris said earlier, that's not near what he could be. But at the same time, you have to be careful about what he's actually earning at the moment.
The second question, unless you've got something to add to that, Chris.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. But if is it John Anthony? Did you say?
Yeah.
It's a big question, there is, and it's a big answer. If he did want to contact us, we could probably be better to talk to him privately on that, because there's so many questions from our point of view to find out a correct answer, and for people who who are in that similar position and are panicking a little bit because they're in that similar position, I would say that don't do too much. You've got there doing what you're doing. Yeah, you're going to change things in the future, but make sure when you do change, it's the right thing and you know exactly what you're doing. And it would pay you to just delay it before you make the decision. Don't just do it out of the
Another one was basically a simple question. While I just kind of found my way again was, because I thought someone was at the door and realised everyone was clapping. Oh, well, what's going on here? So yeah, everybody, well done everybody in the NHS, amazing work. My sister and my wife work in the NHS, so very grateful for that. And then the question was, oh yeah, so you said earlier about the not charging just for a root colour when it's not a root colour anymore.
Yeah.
What service is it now then?
Well, what you can do to answer that is we do the pricing of the colours and cuts. It's all based on time. So, for instance, if you got a £30 cut and finish, or would that be reasonable? A £30 cut and finish, you've got a certain price for that cut and finish price, and it breaks it down into 15 minutes, how much you earn or how much you charge with the 15 minutes. Well, it's the same with your colour. So if you was going to do a roots, but you wanted to press, we have a button called extra time. So if somebody's going to take longer, then there's a price to 15 minutes extra time. You wouldn't have to call it anything other. You just say that this is going to take longer, it's going to take more products, so we're going to have to charge you extra time. And that may be for a 45-minute appointment, which is 30 quid. So we're going to have to charge you £10 extra. And that covers that. Would that make sense, Richard? Was that simple?
What I would say is, if it doesn't fit the service, then you have to have a system in place for, well, is it going to take longer to do? And if it does, then you'd have an extra time colour element. There's an extra time from a cut point of view, which is easy to work out. So, I mean, lots of ways salons often give this time away, so they'll have an extra 15 minutes anyway, not charge the client. But but if someone needs an hour because they've got really long hair or they want a really sort of bespoke service, then for example, a 45-minute, let's make it simple, a £45 cut and finish for a 45-minute appointment, and someone wants an hour, well then it's £60, isn't it? Not 45. And it's down to then for the stylist to explain to the client that you're going to have to spend more time. You don't just stick the price up. It's about getting an agreement with the client, and the same for colour. So it will be again based on that. So
all you want to do is really cover your costs, because, like Richard pointed out, you're going to be using more colour. Even if you just want to say that we're going to have to charge you more because we're using more colour, and that, as long as you're covering it until we get the structure in place, you've got to be careful, because you don't want to upset too many clients with introducing a new system when you're not really up to date on it as well. You've got to be careful.
I think it lends into the bigger question, which is pricing. We spent a whole day on pricing anyway, talking about that. But it's something that people don't look at very often, and it's a moving thing. So we look at pricing all the time. So we're always constantly readjusting prices. There's promotions within the price. Within the price list anyway, between stylists who move up levels if they hit certain criteria. But also, there are times sometimes that we put the colour prices up, but maybe not the cut and finish prices, because we've had an increase in colour costs from the manufacturer. The problem you're always going to have is if you don't touch the price list for years on end, and the client just gets used to the same price, and then you change it. Oh, what's the big drama? And also, I mean, we went through this process a couple of years ago, well, a few years ago now, where we wanted to increase. We didn't want any more clients. We wanted higher bills. And we didn't just pick the prices up, but we just got the clients having more services. So again, if the client only has the same thing time and time again, one, will get bored, and two, the price is always the same. So they should be having additional services, you know, and especially nowadays, there's so many different services they can have, and glosses and some sort of plex, fiberplex, olaplex, plex. You know, there's so many different things that we can do. About, you know, to the client about how all these things benefit the client. If the client gets used to paying the same price month in, month out, and it's gone on for 2 years, then there's a big drama when the whole prices go up. People are putting signs up everywhere, sending messages to clients. But the price guide is a guide. It should be, it evolves. It's like a moving organism, and we should be constantly reviewing it because things change and services change. And, you know, we know so many salons who are just basically, when balayage came out, said, well, it's like a long hair, it's like a set of foil, so let's charge the foil price. I mean, it's like, no, it's not. It's a completely different service, and it's not the same for each client, and you can't have a one-size-fits-all. So you have to have pricing so the team understand it and understand what's going into it. Otherwise, again, you can take a service that you think you're making money on, and we were asked a question a while ago, and someone said, I've got a client coming in who's got hair to her bum, and she wants a price for some colour change, could have been a balayage or something. What would you do? I said, well, what I'm going to do is give her a price. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that hair? Do you know what I mean? Once she's got a price, she said, I was thinking 120 quid. I said, well, you do 120 quid. The minimum you're looking at is probably 300 quid. I mean, it's to her behind. It's pricing has to be, it's a moving thing, and you can only price accordingly to what the client's having done. Otherwise, you'll make a loss on something then. And then invariably, the client comes back to repair and you're having to redo it. It's just, you can see where people start making poor judgments on those type of things. So going back to the original question, I diverted. If your roots service is normally half an inch to an inch, and the client come back in and they've got 2 to 3 inches, you're going to need more colour. It's going to take you a little bit longer. It's going to take some more colour, probably double the amount of colour, but not double the amount of time. So make a call, make a judgment, as we said. Yeah. Maybe charge for the colour, but I'd probably charge for the time, because you're still going to have to apply the colour not to the first. You have to apply it to the kind of the. So you have to do it as a little bit like a full colour. If that makes sense, without getting technical. So it's not the same service. Put it
into a hairdressing analogy, so it probably sticks better with everybody. It's a travelling guideline. It's whatever it takes to get to where you want to get to, isn't it? Then that's the way I'd look at it from what you're saying to me now.
Yeah. It's short term. We're sort of rescuing something that's short term, but once you get into your pricing and you set up your pricing better, once you've set it up, you don't have many problems then. It's just tweaking it. You've already got a system for pricing already there, and it seems to, you only set it up really once and then understand it, and it's dead easy. It's when you haven't got a proper structure in place and these sort of things happen, then it becomes a grey area, and clients don't like grey areas. You need to have a structure to do pricing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Right there. Honestly, the compliments keep rolling in. There's been so many throughout. The numbers keep growing in the audience. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you all now, so I'm going to try and to wrap it up soon. But basically the compliments are, I could sit listening to you guys all night. John Anthony said he's 100% going to reach out to you. Somebody said that you both look very approachable, even by listening to and watching you on Facebook Live. A lot of people agreeing with you and giving their advice on they go up 1%, 3%, 5% every year.
Good.
And then one final question, because honestly they keep rolling in, the questions aren't stopping. Charlie Brennan says, do we pre-warn about pricing changes before we go back, or do we wait?
That's a great question, and I would say under the circumstances, I always say no. I just put my prices up, and I tend to change them 3 times a year, so I don't get many price lists because they change. They might tweak, they might change a little bit. Under the circumstances, I would probably say, because we're going to send literature to people, preparing them, I would say yes. I would say yes.
We're basically advocating that prices went up anyway, that salons always increase their prices when there is a change in legislation, because it gives us an opportunity to link it to the government, so they don't blame us. We've got minimum wage changes, we've got pension contributions, all of those types of things. Sort of the client can then disassociate it from us, and then it goes back to the government. So it's easier to kind of link it to those types. So we were going to put the prices up on the 1st of April anyway. Just happens that we were closed. So I think
it's either the government or it's Richard and Chris told me to put my prices up. That's what.
I think if you haven't done it for long, if you're going to do it, it's a long period of time. It's been a long time since you've done it. Then yeah, maybe you want to do it. And we don't have to do it so much because there's constant price changes anyway. But as Chris said, you're going back to inform them of what's going to be happening anyway with regard to them. And I would just say that, in line, we were going to do this anyway. So just to let you know, these were going to happen. We always have a thing within our own salons that if a client walks through the door and they weren't aware of the price increase, or there's any sort of drama at the desk, we just charge them the old price for that visit.
Absolutely.
Just an easy way out to sort of say, well, I didn't know this price was going. That's okay. We'll just charge you what you normally have. Just for the future reference, is a new price. This is what we're going to be charging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
With that. But I think it's a good time to do. And if the client asks, it's because during the lockdown, they've still had to. One, it's the changes in legislation has changed anyway, so you'd have to increase it anyway in relation to that. And secondly, we've had to look at our business, and for us to survive in the future, and you can use that type of language now quite easily. For us to survive in the future, and to work our way through what we're expecting is, we can't charge what we've been currently charging. It just doesn't work, and that's a leadership decision, and I think sometimes you have to make those. So I think this is the time to do anything big decisions you're going to make at the moment. Now's the time to make them, because everyone's in an uncertain world, and I think it's easy to hide stuff.
Amazing. Honestly, the questions are still rolling in, but most people are now letting you go by saying thank you so much. Can't wait to get back to the salon to try out my new skills. Thank you, Chris and Richard, really helpful. Debbie Porter, Tracy Dunbar's put wow. Someone's asked for a job, Rachel Bradley, and laughing faces. I hope that everybody has loved these two as much as I absolutely adore them, because I've only met them once, believe it or not. You wouldn't think that with the way we're chatting tonight, but I have actually only met these guys once, and it was in a bar for about 3 seconds. But I can't say how much I wanted to speak to them, but I just looked like a bit of a weirdo stood next to them for about 10 minutes before that. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for your time. If anyone wants to get in touch with them, it's Winning Ways. I'll put a link on here. I'll send you guys the link of this live. You can go through the comments if there's anything you want to add to. And it will be available on YouTube, because the numbers are growing. People are coming in just now. So if you want to watch this, again, it will be on YouTube. And if you want to watch it with the comments, it's on Facebook. But thank you so much to Chris and Richard. You've been awesome.
Thank you for putting it on, Sam. Well done, mate. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to end the broadcast, so I'll let you go, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Bye.